Hello and welcome to beautiful Lake Tahoe, California for the first stage of the Amgen Tour of California women's race empowered with SRAM. Brad Soner here alongside Tiffany Cromwell as we got off to a cold start this morning with the riders signing in. Ali Dragoo, one of the pre-race favorites for the 2016 presented by Show Air team. As Tiffany, it turned into a beautiful day after some early flurries in the morning.
Yeah, it was stunning out there. You know, once the clouds lifted and the sun came out, it was the perfect day for racing, and we saw some action-packed racing out around Tahoe.
Just under 75 miles of total racing with 2 QOMs along the route and then a third QOM at the finish. Tiffany had a chance to catch up with the Canadian national champion, Leah Kirschman.
So we're here at the final at the finish for today's stage. What do you expect from him today? How will pan out? Do you think it'll be the final climb is going to have the decisive factor?
Yeah, looking at the course, it's going to be a tough day today. It's 120 kilometers, so one of the longer stages that we race during the year. There's some pretty significant climbing in the course, and especially this final climb up to the finish. I think it's going to be quite decisive, and it's going to be a pretty select group, I think, that comes to the top of it. So we'll either see a really small bunch sprint or a solo rider coming in.
39 degrees at the start, but that didn't faze the riders. They were ready for a great day of action. We also caught up with Sarah Story before the start.
All right, we're here with Dame Sarah Story. You're here at California, come across from GB. You're looking forward to the race, and what are your ambitions and the team's ambitions for the race?
Yeah, really looking forward to being out there on the road. Ambitions to try and get someone up there in the front. It's going to be a very selective finish. It's going to be really hard work, but we're hoping to get me up there in the finish and see whether I can get inside the top 10.
And with the altitude and the travel, how do you think that's going to play in with? Do you think the North American riders will have an advantage, or you think you guys should be able to handle it okay with the travel, and because you know it's half-half with the peloton here?
Yeah, no, we travelled out here on Monday. We'd been racing all weekend, so everyone was pretty tired, and they seemed to fall into the time zone pretty quick. Altitude's new for some people, but they seem to have adapted well. Everyone's in good spirits, so yeah, it's a real challenge, but then that's what it's all about. So looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Another pre-race favorite, Lisa Brennauer, looking forward to a good day as Tiffany caught up with her.
We have quite a hard finish today with the final climb up to Ski Village. What are you expecting from the team, yourself, and what's the plan for today?
Yeah, I hope we can have an exciting race, and we want to make a pretty hard race and stick together as a team. That's most important for us, just race as a team, and hopefully our plan turns out in the end.
Yeah, hopefully. And what are you thinking of Lake Tahoe, this area? You know, it's quite stunning. The course looks stunning. What do you think of the surrounds that we have to race on?
Yeah, it's really nice that we're here in Northern California, and I think it's a beautiful area here. The weather is good today, so yeah, I think it's all the best for this race.
So a 1.5 kilometer neutral rollout as the crowds turned out in force in South Lake Tahoe to support the riders. Very impressive race today.
It was indeed. You know, you have a great caliber of riders here with big international teams racing the European circuit and the US teams, everybody wanting to make a name for themselves, and it was a platform, perfect race conditions and terrain to make it for a good hard day of racing.
Yeah, now the action got started early. They didn't waste any time. As soon as the race went green, we saw the first attack going away, the commissar keeping the riders in check. But once that car moved out of the way, we saw the first attacks of the day, and they would actually be attacks that stayed for most of the race.
Yeah, exactly. When there's people that don't feel like they can make it to that final climb because we knew it's going to be decisive on that climb, we see the opportunistic riders to make a name for themselves, get out there, you know, have a go off the front, see if they can go solo, preferably with a group of, you know, a few riders is better, but obviously we had Sarah Story here. The first one, when we spoke to her before the race, she wanted to do something, have an impact on this race, and, you know, she's just recently had an attempt at the world hour record on the track. She's multiple-time Paralympic champion, world Paralympic champion, you know, in both time trials and road races, so we know she can go a long distance by herself.
Yeah, Sarah attacking just about 2 kilometers coming up to the first QOM of the day. That would be the Emerald Bay climb. She was joined by the Canadian rider Christy Lay on the Canadian national team there in the blue jersey. They did a nice job working together to go up and over that first QOM.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it looks like a great turn. They're swapping turns without any dramas, not one sitting on, and I guess both teams have something to prove. Maybe they don't have riders which they feel are going to be here for the overall general classification or the stage win, so they want to have a go at the front, take some points, get a jersey for the team because it puts them on the podium. So, and that's what we see here, and they're working well off the front.
And this is such a tough call for the other teams to make. When you have two riders away, it's kind of just dangerous enough that it's not a big group, so you kind of want to let them go. But these were two very powerful riders, so certainly a threat not just for the QOMs, but also for the stage win today.
Exactly. It's a tricky one. You know, when you're back in the peloton, you've marked out, you know, each team will mark out their riders who they think are the threats for the overall stage, and maybe these girls weren't on the team radar, so they think, okay, you know, we can give them some time, but you don't want to give them too much time, like 2, 3, 4 minutes, because then it results on one team committing behind. And, you know, if you don't get that cohesion, if one team doesn't take control as they all play cat and mouse with each other, gives opportunity for the breakaway to survive. And, you know, it's always a tough move going from the start, but sometimes a gamble does pay off.
You can see Kirsty Lay just sitting on the wheel right here of Sarah Story. That Story in the pink jersey on the front. Lay was very patient on the QOM climbs. She made it clear that she was looking for some of those points, trying to take the polka dot jersey.
Absolutely, and why not? She's a young rider. She wants to, you know, this is a big international race, put her name out there, get a jersey, and here we have her, you know, comfortably taking it from Sarah Story, but it looks as though they'll get back together over the top and continue working, and we see the peloton just behind. So they still don't have a huge gap, but I'm sure they'll keep powering on and seeing how far they can take this break throughout the stage.
Tiffany, in a situation like that, not much you can do when you have a rider on your wheel. You just kind of have to wait for them to make your move and hope that you can respond. Kirsty Lay had it perfect. She took maximum points, followed by Sarah Story. Lex Albrecht was the third rider across the line, with Elena Berlado taking fourth and Ali Dragou the fifth rider in the QOM competition. Then moving ahead, coming off of that at 88 kilometers to go, this is Lay coming back into the group. She pulled the plug in the breakaway. Sometimes you just don't have it, and a lot of times that's a mental decision that you just have to make and say, you know what, I'm going to cut my losses, go back in, and try again another day.
Exactly. It's always tough because, you know, if you have a teammate in the break, you want them to be there, represent the team, but sometimes, obviously, this race, it's not only the terrain that the riders will be suffering with, but we have the added altitude, which, you know, some riders react differently. Some can handle it, some can't, and we see Sarah obviously isn't having any trouble with this. She's come across from the UK straight in off 20 hours of travel, give or take, to get up to Lake Tahoe, and, you know, as we can see, 3-time British national time trial champion. She's on a mission. She wants to get up there, and she wants this stage.
Yeah, certainly a dangerous rider. You don't want to let a time trial rider go off the front. That's about the worst situation that the other teams can have, because we know that Sarah Story can go long distances with really solid, prolonged efforts. Now, Story was joined by another rider. It was the old 1-2 from the Canadian national team. As Lay went back in, it was her teammate, Allison Beveridge, who then made a huge bridge. The gap was about 30 seconds. Multiple riders tried to make it up, but only Beveridge was able to go.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? It's great to see the Canadian national team going on the attack, you know, putting riders up there. Having another rider in the break, it takes the pressure off them from behind, and, you know, soon I'm sure we're going to see the teams taking control behind, because, you know, they won't want this break to go too far out, because, as you say, with one rider it's easy to control, but when you have two, it adds that different element, because, you know, when you have the power of two riders versus one or five, or it just adds the difficulty to bring it back of, you know, how easy or hard it might be. But they're working well again, and we'll see if they stay away.
Yeah, such a big gamble for Beveridge to come out of the field to join Sarah Story. She was able to make the gap and then immediately went to the front and started doing work. A lot of times you see riders that want to sit on the breakaway after they join, but Beveridge was very intent on keeping this one away.
Exactly. The worst thing is, because, you know, you've gone through the red, like absolutely had to work a lot harder to make it to the break. So normally, if it was me in this position, I'd be sitting on, taking a breath, but she sees opportunities. She sees it's a fantastic opportunity for herself and the team, and maybe she's feeling great today. She feels like she has the legs, and, you know, really wants to let this break get away, keep going, and perhaps collect some more points.
This is going to be coming to the first and only sprint of the day in the green jersey competition. You see Story out of the saddle there, but Beveridge would get the best of her for the Canadian national team, so Beveridge picks up maximum points there. The field coming through just over 30 seconds behind them, as they did do a good job of maintaining the gap, but these two riders stayed away for a lot of the day today.
Yeah, and with this sprint, it's also the only bonus seconds we have throughout the stage, because there's no bonus seconds on the finish. So it technically puts Alison Beveridge in the virtual yellow jersey as we speak. So if she can, even if they get reeled back in and make it to the finish together, she could take the first yellow jersey.
It was Alexis Ryan that came out of the field to take the third spot on that sprint as the peloton crossed that line a minute 14 behind these two. It was looking more and more dangerous for these two riders back to the peloton as the gap eventually went up to 1:50, the maximum time, but then the field started reeling them back in as they approached the second KOM.
Yeah, exactly. I can see it's a Veloce SRAM team on the front. Obviously, they're one of the biggest teams here, and it's an important race for the team, so they took control, put some of their riders onto the front just to control this break, because when you have a lot of other teams, they can sometimes be intimidated by the bigger team, so everyone will wait for that bigger team to make the first move to start chasing. And as we saw, Sarah Story took that second QOM, so that will put her in the leader's jersey, and finally she gets a bit of payback for all of her efforts for today. And they're still sticking there, but I have a feeling they will get caught as they'll be getting tired, and we still have that very hard climb to the finish.
Yeah, those two were all in on that move. Also saw Lex Albrecht putting in a big ride, the Canadian rider for the Optum Pro cycling team. Albrecht took third on both of those QOM climbs, so clearly targeting that polka dot jersey.
Yeah, and the Optum team here, they are a very strong team. They have some great riders here, and they will want to be having an impact. They will want to be up there on the podium, getting their team out there, and they'll certainly have some big goals for this race.
Now, Tiffany, at this point, you come up and over the climb. The gap is down under 20 seconds on the descent. The riding is on the wall for these two. They don't have any illusions of staying away at this point.
Exactly. It's that you're sort of out there, the dangling carrot, and it's like, okay, when are we going to get caught? Will we, won't we? But, it's guaranteed that they likely are, but we may also see the gap fluctuate again, because the peloton will back off after chasing for the QOM sprint and then coast down the climb, whereas at the front they'll keep the pressure on. And they will keep going for as long as possible, because you just never know, but it's pretty unlikely they're going to make it all the way to the finish.
Yeah, all the credit in the world, though, to Sarah Story, the chief instigator of the day today, who started this breakaway at the beginning of the race and was able to stay away with a varying cast of riders throughout the day. It was an impressive ride for Story and Beveridge as well.
Yeah, absolutely, for these two, but particularly with Story, attacking from kilometre zero. And as you said, she's such a strong rider, but the fact that she competes in both able body and para body is, credit to itself to be competitive with these women, and, really just showing she's not afraid to sit in. She wants to have a go, be amongst the race, make the race, and not just be content sitting in. And, for a team too, they want to be out here and, do something with this race.
Yeah, you can see the left side of Story's handlebar there. A slight modification for Story. She was born without the use of her left hand. Her left arm is about 7 inches shorter than the right arm, so she has a specially modified handlebar and brake setup on the bike. You can see the kind of double bar coming on the drops of that. She uses 2 brakes on the right-hand side.
And she's also a dame. We forget to mention that,
That's right.
Through all of her results. And the lovely United Kingdom have knighted her, and so she's our Dame Sarah Story. But now we can see behind the peloton, they're going to start coming in, start chasing, and they'll reel in this peloton, and we'll start looking ahead towards that final climb where teams will be setting up their major riders, and I'm sure we're going to see fireworks all the way up the 2.5K climb to the finish.
Yeah, most riders this morning predicting that it would be a select group making it to the line. Certainly didn't think we would see a group this big, so it was really only a matter of time before they hit the climb and the attacks started coming out of that group. It wasn't a question of if, but when, as this is the first part of that climb. You can see the incline. These riders know what's happening, and they're just waiting to be absorbed.
Yeah, and we can see, I'm sure it's just people will start going out the back and out the back. I rode the finish climb this morning when I came up to see the girls off at the start, and it's brutal. If it was a normal climb, not altitude, yeah, it's tough, but not super tough. But with the added element of altitude, we have sections of 15% up there. You get the small descent, and then that final kilometre. From 1 kilometre you go to that final 300. It's brutal. It's a wall in front of you. You get over that, and then the slight downhill to the finish. So it's going to all come down to that, and I think we'll see our winner come from that final 1 kilometre to go to 500 metres.
Yeah, and that final climb coming after 73 and a half very tough miles of racing around Lake Tahoe. You can see that by this time in the race, the roads had dried out. They did start under wet conditions, but it was sunny as temperatures approached 50 degrees out there today. Really a big change in the weather about halfway through the race.
Exactly, and considering yesterday it was snowing out there and we arrived from Europe and we're in sunny California, what's going on? And we're in now a blizzard at Lake Tahoe, but it was beautiful out there, and the sun was out and made the conditions just what you want for racing. Not too hot, not too cold, but a chance, to work on your tan, as we say, but and obviously let the racing heat up with the conditions too.
So here's the catch being made as Story and Beveridge go back into the field. Then we looked at this group. It was 8 riders away at 8 kilometers of racing remaining. This group looked dangerous for a while. They had gone up to about 15 seconds. You can see the peloton just behind them, but this group I think was way too big, Tiffany, to make it all the way to the line together.
Exactly. It's a tricky group, and you can see the Velocio SRAM riders sitting on the back. Clearly they're not happy with that rider in the front, and then there are a few, are they all the single teams? But we don't have the major favourites here, so they won't be happy behind.
Yeah, we'll run through these 8 riders. Shoshana Routley of the BMW Happy Tooth team, Trixie Warak riding for Velocio SRAM, Annie Ewart of the Optum Pro Cycling team, Hannah Barnes is the United Healthcare rider in there, Malgorzata Jasinska is the Cipollini rider that you saw there.
Try and put an attack to get away by herself.
Yeah, trying to break this group up just a little bit. She wouldn't be able to do it. Joanne Hogan of the Tibco team was also there to respond. Amber Gaffney is the 2016 presented by Show Air rider that you see in the breakaway, and Stephanie Rurda, the Canadian national rider, rounding out those 8 riders. Few attacks, but nothing able to stick, and this is another one of those situations where you just realize that it's not going to work.
Exactly, and there's probably a lot of riders in this break that know that they have their team leaders behind. They've been told, if you're in a break, don't ride. You know, Hannah Barnes is a dangerous one if she could get over the top because she's very fast, but she knows she has, some strong riders behind, and so, she isn't doing too much, but she's really the only one that's kind of driving this. And you have Trixie who's sitting there on the back and the Ali Cipollini rider, so, you can see them behind. They're getting ready, and the teams as well, they won't be happy with this. They'll want to get their leaders up there and ready to set them up for that final climb.
Great insight into the teamwork of this sport here. Every rider has a role, and as you guys sit down before the start of the race, you make a plan, you have a rider that you're going to be working for, and if the situation isn't just right for that rider, other riders on the team will give up their chance to win the stage so that their team leader can do what they need to do.
Exactly right, but this move is actually quite an important move for the teams because they may not be their riders that they're protecting, but it gives an extra rider up the road for when their leaders do bridge across to then have that extra bit of help. And I can just see the Velocio rider is actually Barbara Goriski, which she's one of the sprinters of the team. So of course, it's not an ideal situation for the team. So she'll be sitting there, not doing any work, waiting for our climbers to then come across and help them as much as she can into that final climb.
Yeah, and most of the major teams represented in there as well. So obviously those teams wouldn't be chasing down their own riders. Here at 4K to go, you can see the group starting to separate and thin out just a bit as United Healthcare goes to the front. Velocio SRAM there as well. All the heavy hitters coming forward here in the final 4K.
Exactly, and that's Caroline Canuel. She's a very strong climber. She just recently had a win at the Grazia-Olova race in Czech, and she's a strong one there. We have Katie Hull there as well. She's been said to have been in very good form and a big favourite for this race. So we have a lot of, and that's Andrea Dvorak, I think it is, on the front. I've raced with her for many years. She's a strong climber and she's good at altitude. So this is a dangerous move, but we can see behind, I think the group's coming back together, and with 3K to go, we're about to hit that final climb.
Yeah, you see the riders constantly looking around. Your head is always on a swivel at this point. Being strong is important, but being smart is important as well. You got to be in the perfect position on the climb. We saw that happen in the first QOM as the riders came up and over. You want to be on that second wheel. You want to be following the lead rider and then make your move at just the right time.
Exactly. It's all about being tactically savvy when it comes to bike racing. You can be the strongest person in the peloton, but if you're not smart, you're not going to win any time because, riders will sit there, they'll protect themselves about using as little energy as possible, timing that right move at the right time. You'll have one attack and then the second, the third, and then it's that fourth when everyone's hurting and saying, no, not another attack, and then that next one goes. That's the one that's usually the winning move, and you need to have that instinct to be able to feel that, and that's why it's so important to have the race leaders or the team captains to be able to help get that feeling and tell their riders, what they need to be doing at the decisive points in the race.
Really amazing how much this group broke up. This is just inside of 2 kilometers of racing remaining. The finish didn't look anything like this. We're looking at 20 plus riders right now, but this one would break up very, very quickly as they came into the final K.
Exactly, because as we head through the neighborhood, this is where it really gets steep, where they are now, and it's the first real big hit into your legs where you'll start to feel it. Riders will just go off the back and off the back. Then they'll get a very small respite before it goes downhill, then that final kick to the finish. But, this is good 15, 16, 17%. It hurts. And, breathing hard. We see Caroline Canuel on the side, putting in her attack. She'll be setting it up for the likes of Aliona and Trixie for the Velocio SRAM team, and she's basically trying to hurt the girls to then set up for that next attack. As we say, it's not the first attack that usually goes, but the second, the third, and she's sacrificing herself for the team, and that's why she's been here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great insight. The job for a lot of these riders is just make the race as difficult as possible. I think that's what the 2016 presented by Show Air rider is doing here. And then immediately mark, though, you'll see as soon as a rider attacks, there's always a rider on the wheel following that move just in case. A little insurance for the teams.
Exactly, 100%. When you're so close to the finish, you do not want to let anybody get a gap because it's particularly hard. And as we keep saying, with altitude, you do not recover with that. So you do one hard effort, and then it's very hard to back up after that. So if one goes, the next goes. If you have to chase one attack, then the next and the next, you're eventually going to pay for it, and you just won't be able to respond anymore, and your legs will be screaming, and yeah, you'll just start. You'll go back because you'll hear those explosions that we often feel when it's like at that critical point of the race.
2016 presented by Show Air looked to be in very good position. They had two riders on the front as they hit 1K, but then things really started to heat up. That group fell apart. We were seeing gaps of 2 and 3 seconds at the finish as the climbers had their chance to go to the front.
And we see Aliona Amilisik, the Belarusian national champion. She's been on fantastic form, Velocio SRAM again. They're here to win the races. They want to have a big impact on the race. She's looking strong and she's giving it everything to try and win this for the team. And we see Katie Hall straight on the wheel. She's looking strong as well. And this is the hardest part of the climb. Once they get over it, then it's flat and then downhill to the finish. But as we can see, it's just deteriorating. It's just in pieces behind.
Yeah, when you have riders like Leah Kirschman having trouble hanging on, you know that it's a tough climb, as Kirschman having a tough day in the saddle. She had a great ride, though, in fact, doing some work for the Optum team, so I think she probably used a lot of that energy earlier out there on the road. You mentioned Anna Lisic and Katie Hall earlier on the front. Anna Lisic was really the first rider to attack out of this group, and she had a great ride today, incredibly strong for the Belarusian national champion.
Exactly. She's been so consistent throughout the entire Spring European campaign, up there, a lot of top 5 results in the World Cups, and she's been on great form. She won the Grazia Olova Tour just in Czech just last week, so we know she's strong, but she's sitting on the front here, which it's always not the best place you want to be, because people from behind will attack. She's not giving the protection she needs, and as we see Katie Hall, she goes, and Aliona, she's on the wheel, but you can see she's just hanging in there, and then our 2016 rider is again also just off, but it looks like Katie Hall, I think she's going to be up there, and it's a downhill run to the finish. It's look, it's close if Aliona can just get there, but you'll see it's, I think, another 100, 150 meters straight around the corner, very fast finish, and look, it's Katie Hall. She's looking strong. It's going to be one of the biggest results of her career. It's a huge race. It's a UCI 2.1 race. On the world stage, this is fantastic for her, and such an exciting young rider that I think we'll see a lot from her, and I think she's got to take this comfortably for UHC and take the first yellow jersey of the race, and what a great ride, fantastic. And then with Aliona Amilusik in second.
And that's Lauren Kamansky crossing the line in third for the 2016 presented by Show Air team. But it was all power for Katie Hall today as she earned the first stage here at Heavenly Resort just outside of South Lake Tahoe, and could not be happier. As you said, a huge win for any rider, but especially someone like Katie Hall. This is one of the biggest wins of her career.
Exactly, particularly coming in front of your Velocio SRAM riders. She can be very happy with the day's work, and UHC will be very happy, and they'll work to defend this jersey, I'd say, for the next 2 stages.
So Trixie Worak finds 4th, Flavia Oliveira finds 5th today, Allison Jackson in 6th, Dre Dvorak in 7th, with Leah Kirschman taking 8th, Lauren Stevens in 9th, and Lex Albrecht rounding out the top 10. The Canadians having a good day here at the Engine Tour of California.
Yep.
So there is the first yellow jersey of the 2015 edition of the Amgen Tour of California women's race, empowered with SRAM, going, of course, to Katie Hall, a deserving and worthy champion today. It was a very tough race.
It was indeed. She put in a fantastic ride. You can't wipe the smile off her face. She gets the California black bear as a, to remember this stage, and apparently there was a bear that they got in the race.
That's right. You caught up with her at the finish.
So, massive win for you today, Katie. It was obviously the first stage, first yellow jersey of the tour. How does it feel? Obviously it's one of your biggest wins of your career, I imagine, and play us through those last final kilometres and how it played out.
It was real hard. There was a couple of really good attacks in the last 2K or so. It got down to 4 people to 2016s, and Annalena Amalusik and me, and she attacked real hard over the steepest part, and I hung with her and attacked over the last little hump.
And then, so where did you go solo and then obviously hold on to the final because you came in, like a couple bike lengths ahead?
A couple bike lengths, yeah. Like I attacked 300 meters to go over the last little hump, and then it was downhill to the finish.
And so what's the plan for the rest of the race? Plan is for the team to support you and hold on to this jersey and take it to the finish? Is that hopefully?
We'll see. I think I have a lot of strong teammates here, and so as long as we keep it in the family, I'm pretty happy.
Great. Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Well, what a great day it was for California's own Katie Hall as she takes the yellow jersey for the United Healthcare Pro Cycling Team. The race continues tomorrow from South Lake Tahoe right here at the Amgen Tour of California women's race empowered with SRAM. For Tiffany Cromwell, I'm Brad Soner. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.